In an age of sail and shadow, when the maps of the world were filled with blank spaces and warnings of sea monsters, a few dared to venture into the unknown. They were driven by dreams of gold, the allure of distant lands, and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. They risked their lives to change the world. Their discoveries reshaped civilization, connecting continents and cultures in ways previously unimaginable. This is the story of the Age of Exploration, a time when humanity's courage redrew the boundaries of our world. What drove these men and women to leave the safety of their homes and sail into the abyss? The answer lies in a complex web of ambition, faith, and economics. For centuries, Europe had been tantalized by the riches of the East. Spices like pepper, cloves, and cinnamon were worth more than their weight in gold, arriving via treacherous overland routes like the legendary Silk Road. But by the 15th century, these pathways, controlled by powerful empires, became increasingly difficult and expensive to traverse. The great trading hubs of Venice and Genoa, once gateways to Asian wealth, saw their dominance threatened. A new path was needed, a sea route. Beyond economics, a fervent religious zeal also fueled the quest. Monarchs sought to spread their faith to new lands, seeing exploration as a divine mission. And then there was the simplest, yet most powerful, human motivation of all: curiosity, the desire to see what lay beyond the horizon, to answer the age-old question, what if? This potent mix of God, glory, and gold set the stage for an unprecedented era of discovery. Long before European ships rounded Africa, other explorers had already charted vast territories. The Venetian merchant Marco Polo journeyed along the Silk Road in the 13th century, spending years in the court of Kublai Khan. His detailed accounts of China's immense wealth and advanced civilization captivated European readers for generations, planting a seed of desire for direct access to the East. In the early 15th century, the great Chinese admiral Zheng commanded a massive treasure fleet sailing across the Indian Ocean to the shores of Africa. His expeditions were grand displays of China's naval power and technological prowess, decades ahead of their European counterparts. Then, in 1492, an Italian navigator named Christopher Columbus, sailing under the Spanish flag, set out with a radical idea to reach the East by sailing west. He tragically underestimated the size of the Earth and had no idea two vast continents stood in his way. Though he never reached Asia, his accidental arrival in the Americas would irrevocably alter the course of history. Just a few years later, the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama achieved what Columbus had set out to do. He successfully navigated around the southern tip of Africa, the Cape of Good Hope, and reached the shores of India, finally opening a direct sea route to the coveted spice markets. The ultimate feat of this era belongs to Ferdinand Magellan. In 1519, his expedition embarked on a perilous journey to find a western passage to the Spice Islands, though Magellan himself would not survive. His crew completed the first circumnavigation of the globe, proving definitively that the world was round and far larger than anyone had imagined. These voyages were not romantic adventures. They were brutal struggles for survival. The sea itself was a relentless enemy. Violent storms could splinter a ship in minutes, casting its crew into the merciless ocean. On board, life was a grim ordeal. Scurvy, a horrifying disease caused by a lack of vitamin C, rotted sailors' bodies from the inside out. Food supplies would spoil, water would turn foul, and starvation was a constant threat. The psychological toll was immense. Months, sometimes years, at sea, with no land in sight, could push a crew to the breaking point, leading to despair and mutiny. Even if they survived the journey, arriving in an unknown land brought its own dangers. They faced unfamiliar climates, hostile encounters, and the constant fear of the unknown. Back home, securing funding for these high-risk ventures was a political chess game, with explorers pleading their case to skeptical monarchs and navigating the treacherous currents of courtly duché intrigue and religious pressure. Every league sailed was a victory against overwhelming odds. The impact of these journeys was nothing short of revolutionary. The discovery of the Americas doubled the size of the known world for Europeans, revealing new continents teeming with diverse cultures and resources. This ignited the first true era of global trade. Silver from the Americas flowed to Europe and then on to Asia, creating a complex, interconnected world economy. But the most profound exchange was biological. Known as the Columbian Exchange, it was a massive transfer of plants, animals, diseases, technologies, and ideas between the old and new worlds. Europe received potatoes, tomatoes, corn, and chocolate, which would transform its agriculture and cuisine. The Americas received wheat, sugar, horses, and cattle. This exchange enriched diets and changed landscapes, but it also had a devastating downside. European diseases like smallpox and measles, to which indigenous populations had no immunity, swept through the Americas, causing a demographic catastrophe of staggering proportions. The legacy of the Age of Exploration is woven into the very fabric of our modern world. It laid the foundations for globalization, connecting distant corners of the planet through trade, migration, and communication. The maps we use today are a direct result of the painstaking work of these early navigators and cartographers. Our cultural identities, our languages, and even our DNA have been shaped by the encounters and migrations that this era set in motion. The scientific and technological advancements required for these voyages in navigation, shipbuilding, and astronomy pushed the boundaries of human knowledge and paved the way for the scientific revolution. The world economy as we know it, a single integrated system of finance and trade, has its roots in the silver and spice routes forged 5 centuries ago. However, we cannot ignore the dark side of this legacy. The Age of Discovery was also an age of conquest. European powers, armed with superior weaponry and driven by a sense of cultural supremacy, began a long and brutal period of colonization. They exploited the resources and labor of indigenous peoples, dismantled powerful empires, and imposed their own systems of governance and religion. The arrival of Europeans brought not just new goods, but also widespread violence and the catastrophic spread of disease. The voices and histories of the millions who lived in the Americas, Africa, and Asia before the explorers arrived were often silenced, their cultures irrevocably altered or destroyed. To understand this era fully, we must confront this painful history of exploitation and its lasting impact on communities around the globe. The Age of Exploration was more than just a quest for new lands or riches. It was a pivotal moment when humanity began to grasp the true scale and interconnectedness of our planet. The courage of those who sailed into the unknown, the tragedy of those who were conquered, and the complex exchanges that followed have all shaped the world we inhabit today. It wasn't just about discovering new lands, it was about discovering how connected we truly are. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to Digital Time Vault for more history in motion.